You're sitting in the drive-through line at a Chick-fil-A on a Wednesday night. It's 6:47. Nobody cooked. Nobody had time to cook. The woman in the driver's seat just finished a 9-hour shift at the hospital. The man in the passenger seat is still in his work clothes, replying to emails on his phone. There are 2 kids in the back, one of them is asleep. The order comes to $43. She taps her card without looking up. He doesn't look up either. They've stopped talking about the small purchases because there are too many small purchases to talk about. They make combined $118,000 a year. They have $600 in savings. Nobody can explain where the rest of it went. My name is Mick, and today we're going to talk about the financial trap that almost nobody sees coming because it looks exactly like success on the way in. 2 incomes, 2 paychecks, twice the earning power. And somehow statistically, less financial security than a single-income household from 30 years ago. Not less comfort, less security. There is a difference, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that difference exists, who it's quietly destroying, and what the math actually looks like when you stop confusing income with wealth. Let's start with the number that should make everyone uncomfortable. The median dual-income household in America right now earns about $107,000 a year combined. That sounds like a lot. That used to be a lot. In 1973, a single male worker at the median wage could cover a mortgage, a car, 3 kids, and a stay-at-home spouse on roughly $54,000 in today's dollars. 1 income, 1 job, done. Now take that same family, hand both adults full-time jobs, nearly double the household income, and they are statistically more likely to carry credit card debt, less likely to have 3 months of expenses saved, and more likely to file for bankruptcy than that single-income household from 50 years ago. Same country, double the earners, worse financial footing. How is that possible? The answer has a name. Economists call it the 2-income trap. Most people just call it their life. Here's how it works. And I want you to actually follow this because the mechanism is the whole point. When 1 income becomes 2, the household doesn't just add money. It adds expenses that are invisible until they aren't. It adds a second car because now both people are commuting. It adds childcare because now nobody is home. It adds more restaurant meals, more convenience spending, more dry cleaning, more work wardrobes, more work lunches, more of everything that exists to support 2 people being somewhere other than home 50 hours a week each. And here's the part nobody budgets for correctly. It adds taxes. The marriage penalty is real and it is expensive. A single earner making $107,000 pays federal income tax at one rate. 2 people each making $53,500 and filing jointly often end up in a higher effective bracket on a meaningful chunk of that combined income. The IRS does not care that you needed both those salaries to survive. Let's put real numbers to this because the math is where the trap actually closes. Meet Tyler and Amber. Tyler is a project manager at a mid-size construction firm. Amber is a nurse at a regional hospital. They live in a 3-bedroom house in a suburb outside a mid-size city. They have 2 kids, ages 4 and 7. Combined income, $114,000. On paper, they are doing well. In real life, they are 1 broken furnace away from a credit card they cannot pay off. Here is their actual monthly picture. After taxes, Tyler and Amber take home roughly $6,900 a month combined. Mortgage, $1,720. $2 car payments, because they both need to get to work, $980 total. Childcare for the 4-year-old, $1,350. That number is not a typo. The average cost of center-based childcare in the US is now over $1,200 a month per child. The 7-year-old is in after-school care, another $420. Groceries, $950 because 2 working parents buy more convenience food, more pre-prepped meals, more of the things that cost more because they save time they don't have. Utilities, $310. Car insurance on 2 vehicles, $280. Gas for 2 commuters driving to 2 different jobs 5 days a week, $340. Student loans, Tyler's are almost paid off. Amber still has $290 a month left. Phone bills, $180. Subscriptions they keep meaning to cancel, $90 total dollars fixed and semi-fixed monthly obligations. $6,910, their dollars take-home pay is $6,900. They dollars are spending more than they make before a single unplanned thing happens, before the pediatric copay, before the work shoes that wore out, before the Wednesday Chick-fil-A, before the birthday party gift for a kid in the 7-year-old's class that they found out about 2 days before the party. They are not irresponsible. They are not lazy. They do not have a spending problem in the way people mean when they say someone has a spending problem. They have a math problem. A math problem that was baked into their situation the moment they both went back to work and reorganized their entire lives around 2 incomes. Now here is the part that quietly makes it worse. Their lifestyle has calibrated to $114,000. The mortgage they qualified for was based on 2 incomes. The cars they financed were based on 2 incomes. The neighborhood they chose, the school district, the decisions that became permanent, they were all made assuming $114,000 would keep landing every single month. Which means if either income disappears, even temporarily, even for something as common as a layoff or a medical leave or a difficult pregnancy, the entire structure collapses. not bends, collapses, because there is no margin. There never was any margin. The second income didn't create margin. It created obligations that consumed the margin before it ever existed. This is what Elizabeth Warren identified in her book years before she became a senator. She was a Harvard bankruptcy researcher at the time, and what she found by studying middle-class families who filed for bankruptcy was not what anyone expected. It wasn't the reckless spenders. It wasn't the people buying boats and vacations they couldn't afford. The families most likely to go bankrupt were dual-income households with children, because they had locked themselves into a high fixed-cost structure with zero redundancy. One income was always one emergency away from becoming a crisis. And here is the really uncomfortable part of that research. The single-income families from a generation earlier, the ones that looked financially weaker on paper because they earned less, were actually more stable because their fixed costs were built around one salary. If something happened to that salary, there was a second adult who could theoretically enter the workforce. They had a backup that Tyler and Amber have already spent. Let's talk about what the second income actually nets out to. Because this is the number people almost never calculate. And it is genuinely shocking when you do. Amber makes $58,000 a year as a nurse. Sounds solid. Now let's figure out what she actually brings home after the cost of bringing home that income. Federal and state income tax on her earnings because of their combined bracket situation, roughly $15,000. Childcare costs that exist specifically because she works, $1,350 a month, $16,200 a year. A second car payment and insurance that exists specifically because she commutes, $7,440 a year. Additional gas for her commute, $1,800 a year. Work wardrobe, scrubs, shoes, the professional equipment a hospital job requires, $900 a year. The additional convenience spending, the fuster groceries, the more frequent takeout, attributable to the fact that neither adult has time to cook because both are working full-time, conservatively $4,800 a year. Amber's gross income, $58,000 total dollars costs of earning that income, $46,140 Amber's dollars actual net contribution to the household, $11,860 a year, just under $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month from a $58,000 salary, that's the number. That is what the second income actually puts in the bucket after the bucket has finished paying for itself. And that $1,000 a month is what they are living on top of Tuller's income. It's real money, it's not nothing, but it is nowhere near $58,000. And the entire household cost structure, the mortgage, the cars, the neighborhood, the assumptions, were built as if it were. Now I want to be clear about something because I can already feel the comments forming. This is not an argument that Amber should stay home. This is not a 1950s take wearing a financial literacy costume. Amber's career has value that extends far beyond its monthly net contribution. Her earning potential grows. Her professional identity matters. Her financial independence matters enormously. Her healthcare access through her employer matters. If Tuller's income disappeared tomorrow, Amber's full salary is the thing standing between their family and catastrophe. The point is not that the second income is a mistake. The point is that almost nobody actually does this math. And so the second income gets treated as double the resources when it is structurally much closer to a marginally profitable side business that the entire household has reorganized itself around. There is a version of Tuller and Amber's situation that works. It just requires building the cost structure around one income while two are coming in. It requires treating the second income as the variable, not the foundation. It requires keeping fixed costs low enough that if one salary disappeared tomorrow, the other one could cover the essentials with some pain but not catastrophe. Almost nobody does this because almost nobody frames it this way, because the system, the mortgage broker, the car dealership, the childcare center that quotes you a price and expects you to figure it out, the system is very comfortable letting you assume both incomes are permanent. They are not permanent. They are not guaranteed. They are two separate jobs held by two separate humans with two separate sets of health, two separate employers, and two separate economic realities. And the families who treat them as a single guaranteed unit are the ones who end up in Warren's bankruptcy data. Here's what this looks like when someone actually gets it right. Same numbers, different architecture, meet Jordan and Casey. Combined income, $109,000. Jordan makes $72,000, Casey makes $37,000 doing freelance marketing work part-time, partly because they wanted flexibility, partly because they did this math. Their mortgage was approved based on Jordan's income alone. They drive one newer car and one 10-year-old paid-off Honda. They live in a smaller house in a slightly less expensive suburb than they could have qualified for. Their friends think they're being weirdly conservative. They have $34,000 in an emergency fund. They max out one 401k and contribute something to a Roth IRA. When Casey's freelance work dried up for 4 months last year, nothing changed except one vacation got shorter. No credit card debt, no panic, no rearranging which bill gets paid late. Jordan and Casey are not wealthier than Tuller and Amber by income. They are wealthier by structure. The gap between those two things is the entire video. Now let's zoom out because there is a cultural layer to this that makes the trap harder to see and harder to escape. The dual-income household became the norm in America through the 70s, 80s, and 90s for a combination of real reasons. Women entering the workforce was, and remains, a genuine expansion of human freedom and economic participation. That part is unambiguously good, but here's what happened in parallel. As dual-income households became the norm, the prices of the things households compete for, houses in good school districts, reliable cars, childcare near those houses, those prices adjusted upward to reflect what a two-income household could pay. The market didn't see a family with more purchasing power and leave prices alone. It saw more money and raised the floor. So the two-income household went from a competitive advantage to a baseline requirement, and the single-income household quietly went from normal to economically precarious, not because anything about one income changed, but because the price of a normal life got rebuilt around two, which means Tulla and Amber aren't losing a game they're playing wrong. They're losing a game where the rules changed, while they were told the rules stayed the same. Nobody sat them down and said, by the way, the mortgage and the cars and the childcare you're about to sign up for were priced assuming both of you work forever and nothing goes wrong. Nobody said that. The loan officer just asked what they made, both of them, and told them what they could afford. So here is what I want you to actually do with this. If you're a dual-income household, I want you to do one calculation this week. 1. Take whichever income is smaller. Now subtract taxes, childcare, transportation, and the additional lifestyle spending that exists specifically because that person works. What is left? What does the second income actually net? If the number is strong, great, you're in a healthy position. If the number is thin, if the second income is contributing less than you thought, then the conversation you need to have is not about spending less on lattes. It is about the fixed cost structure you have built, and whether it can survive on one of those incomes alone if it needs to. Because the thing about the dual income trap is not that it punishes you for working hard. It punishes you for assuming the math works out without doing the math. Jus and Logan had the same salary. Tulla, Amber, Jordan, and Casey have nearly the same combined income. The only thing that ever separates the families who feel squeezed from the families who feel steady is not what they earn. It's what their fixed costs require, and whether they built those fixed costs knowing that two incomes is not a guarantee. It's just a good day. The most dangerous number in a dual-income household is not the debt balance or the credit card rate. It's the gap between what your life costs and what one of those incomes can cover. Shrink that gap and you haven't made less money. You've bought something the mortgage broker doesn't sell and the car dealership doesn't offer. You've bought the thing that Tyler and Amber don't have on that Wednesday night in the drive-through line. Not more income. Margin. And margin is the only financial product that actually changes how it feels to live your life. I'm not a financial advisor and nothing here is financial advice. It's just math that the system has a very specific interest in making sure you never do. If this landed for you, drop a comment telling me whether you've ever actually calculated what your second income nets out to. I genuinely want to know, and if you want to understand what to do once you've closed that gap, the video on the 3 net worth levels is right there on the screen. Go watch that one next.